Billy, here we go.
Hello? Is that
Uh,
okay?
here you go. Yes, yes. Now it's okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. I can hear you clearly. Thank you, Billy, for this interview and for deciding to take part to this.
No
Well,
problem.
brilliant. So just really to have an insight on how, for example, you used to study in the past, so your method of studying music in the past, and yeah, how did you change this approach to study music, and how it evolved
hmm
in all these years? So how were you using your time, and then yes, also how you started till today, really, and consideration on that.
Okay. Trying to make this whole thing because I have all of that here. Uh, it's one question, but it's broken up apart. I like it. Well, hours studying. How many hours? I studied this way. I play until it's no fun anymore.
Hmm.
I don't play hours and seconds. It's a lifestyle. And either you're in or you're out. And that means that it's like asking someone when they're if they were able to speak when they were born, coming straight out of the womb. How long did it take you to learn to crawl so that you could walk, so that you could run?
Hmm.
How much time did you practice doing that? You do it until it gets right.
Hmm.
That's what it's all about,
Hmm.
and that you feel comfortable with it. Once that's correct, in stages this happens. And if you're really in for the full Monty, you're doing it because you want to get better at what you're doing because you like what you're doing. You know, if you like vanilla ice cream with chocolate syrup, you eat it a lot and then you get fat. You know, and or if you don't like it, you try something else like I don't know, onion. But you do something. You try to find a way to make things work, and the natural tendency is to not waste time on things you don't like. And that's a natural thing. That means like you go, that doesn't work for me. I'm gone. And it's like that, it's gone. All right. So the, that part's very, very straightforward.
Hmm.
Um, Transcribing tracks, I did that for a blink. I was in the United States Army. Actually, it's a great way to kind of get to know what your predecessors or your colleagues do by writing down what they do, you know, and it's also important because it tends to give you payment back for the time invested. When you write, it's like learning a language. When you write the language down, you remember it, you know. When you're just speaking it, you eventually remember it, but it takes longer. And so it's not a question of expediency. It's a question of being able to identify in multidimensional ways how the music works, you know. And so if you listen to a Buddy Rich record, uh, chances are you're going to go, wow, what did he play? What rudiments did he play? And then you go, what rudiments do I know? How can I relate those rudiments to what he played? And then you start to write down the paradiddles and the singles, and it's right, left, and right, left, right, left, left, and all of a sudden, all these things slowly start to become, start to take life and jump off the paper at you and go, wow, so you played that. Let me just apply this to the drum set. How? Oh, far out. That's easy. But if you were just to listen to it and memorize what he did, more than likely it would take you a tremendous amount of time to assimilate how he played and why he did what he did, and in terms of his direction, why he would go there, or instead of going this other way. At the same time, what you lose is the imagination. When I first heard Buddy Rich play West Side Story, I only heard it. I never saw him play it. So what I did was I just wrote down what I heard. And because of the way that I approached playing the drums, which is from a centralized position where my snare drum is the center of the kit, and I play right side and I play left side, all my patterns reflected that concept, not from left to right.
Yeah.
See, and I didn't play conventionally, so I didn't have that marching band concept in my hands. Not that he always did either, even though he promoted that concept. At the end of his career, he was playing match grip pretty much most of the time because that's how he gained as much power as he could, and he was a latecomer to that. But in order to be able to focus on what he was doing, that's how I wrote things out. And I would play everything back from that perspective. That was my imagination working. That's what's important today, or it's always important. And it's even more important today because most people aren't imaginative. They just go as robots and play exactly what they see their biggest influence doing for whatever reason. I don't know. But there's a lot more to that, and that's a story for another day. Then go ahead. You wanted to ask me a question?
I just wanted to say. So basically, you're saying that writing music transcription helps you creating new ideas, new concepts, and of course also to develop your personality, musical personality, you can say.
Correct. Yeah, it all comes in under that umbrella, you see, and it's very, very helpful. You know, it helps you to. There are problems that you never have, you see, because they never existed. You never went there because you didn't have to. So you never had to waste time. Move on from there. You know, and in essence, you find ways to make the rudiments work better for you. Your sense of independence is more than just is multi-layered and multi-dimensional, because it's not just a sense of playing four-way independence. You're independent from whatever anybody else was doing because you're imagining what you did only for you and how it works for you. The linear phrases, linear phrases are there. They would have been there anyway. You know, these are just words until they become deeds. You know, the roles you played, the polymeters, all of that stuff turns into expressions and phrases, not numbers. It's not physics. At least it's extremely basic, if ever. You know, it's just what you hear, and it's a melding of everything that you experience in your life as you play. There you are. Okay. Writing your own exercises. Didn't have to very much. I mean, actually, it wasn't writing. It was imagining what you could play. Again, my relationship would be with drum corps and marching bands. In the United States, I was in what we call junior corps, where we played in this corps, a group of marching musicians, amateurs, for parades and all of this, but we would compete against each other. Groups would compete against each group. Junior corps up until 18 or 19, and then you could go to senior corps, which was like infinite. You could play until you drop in the age, as long as you were effective doing what you did. And to this day, it still exists like this. In the United States, there are marching bands that compete against each other. If you go to a tattoo, because you're either in London or in New York. Are you in New York?
No, in London, yeah.
Okay. So if you're in London, then you must have seen Her Majesty's household guards bouncing around Buckingham Palace in the morning, right? Those guys could be anywhere in the world. Sometimes they were on a 52-week tour at one section of them, where they go or they travel. Remember them on a tour where they traveled throughout the United States and covered all 50 states in something like 30 weeks, where they just by bus and whenever is a boat or flight to Hawaii or something like this, and they would play, or they would take part in tattoos. They would compete against the United States Air Force band or the Army bands, and they would share notes in the way of camaraderie. A lot of things happen. It would, just the same as musicians with soldiers, you know, anything. And people would get to see what everybody else was doing, and it was very, very important. But you represented a lot that was on the line, you know, a big silver cup or blah, blah, blah that was worth that, and 25 cents could get you on a bus. But as far as they were concerned, that was a real deal. And so they would practice for it, okay? And that's how they learned they developed a sense of discipline and self-respect for what they did individually as well as collectively. That is very, very important in playing. If you don't have that sense of worth, you're going to play like you don't. And no one's going to be interested in what you do, because no one's interested in somebody who doesn't really have any self-respect to carry his or herself through something like music. And the music, it can be brutal in telling people who you really are. Because if you can't play, everyone will know. And it's in the body language. They'll get up and they'll leave, and they'll want their money back, you know, because you didn't have anything to say. You know, why spend money on something that doesn't? And one thing leads to the next, and then you have no audience except yourself. Ask Donald Trump. So there we go. You know, things like this just goes on and on and on. I mean, all of the things that you talk about, the studio and the rehearsals, all of this goes into what you do every day. You know, it tells who you are as a person. And so that means that every stroke you make is a serious one. You know, what you do when you play, how you play. If you take it seriously, it becomes something that you just do. You don't even know. But if you're trying to impress your girlfriend or some friends or blah, 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 look at what I can do. Now you're speaking for yourself only. But you're speaking from a position that should be projected as part of a group environment. So that means I can play so and so and so, and look at this, I'm fast, I'm loud, you know, I'm aggressive, I'm this and that. What happens with all of that stuff when you get into a band? If you get into the habit of doing that, you may be very good at it, and the problem with that is that you stand out as being the best you can be, even better than everybody else in the band. But if you put somebody else in the band that's as good as everybody else in the band and left you to the side, the band would sound fantastic, because everybody would be related at a level that everyone could understand within the group. And you would be on the outside, and everyone would look to you and say, man, you can play by yourself. And that's a big problem. Key is to learn how to play with others, because that's what the drums are all about. That, everything else is fine.
And I believe that comes just playing with other people. I mean, and of course, wanting really to give a reason to what you're doing.
This all comes out in the full story. You know, when you play, and you play well, and everybody in the band turns around, not even says, they don't say, wow, you sounded great. What they do say is, are you free tomorrow? We'd like to do so and so and so and so. We'd love for you to do this. That's when you got the real thanks. When somebody turns around and says to you, man, yeah, man, sure, sounds good, chances are you may not hear from them again, unless you call, right? So the main objective is for you to do what is necessary, which doesn't necessarily mean you have to play everything you know. It means that you have to do what you feel would be effective to meld in with what everybody else is doing. Then you've got more work than you could ever dream. And that's not so easy to do.
I see.
You know, it needs a lot of control over your 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 ego, things like this, where you're really playing to make good music
Hmm.
with what you have to work with, which you may have to come down to from where you are on the perch that where you created a great solid home for yourself, best in the world, but you may not need to be that. You need to be just good enough to make the group sound good.
Hmm.
If you can do that, no problem.
Hmm.
It's always work with it, always work. So then there's number two.
Yes, I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, it's about
go ahead.
really, yes, how you think that. I mean, of course, your idea about memorizing music, and I mean, what do you think has been? I mean, what has been really the method in the past that you've used to also learn, some parts in a short period of time, and yes, also how did you develop this method of memorizing music?
You do that by doing it over and over again. Rehearsals are as such. I mean, I can't remember exactly how Herbie Hancock put it. When someone asked him, "How did you get to where you are in terms of your level of proficiency?" Memory. It's something you do over and over again, but it has to have a reason. You just don't memorize music. It's like getting somebody to. I've seen a guy actually sit down, and I take Buddy again, with a picture or a movie of Buddy Rich playing a certain solo. I think it might have even been West Side Story. And this guy sits down and does a split screen, and he plays exactly the same way as Buddy. Took him a while, okay? And of course, he takes this thing away, and he just plays exactly like Buddy because he memorized it. There's no easy way. You either get your head in the book and you learn the music for what it is. If you learn it from a rhythmic standpoint, that's all you're going to play are rhythms. But the drums are a musical instrument. So if you learn what the theoretical concepts are behind the music, rhythm and melody and harmony, you will play from that perspective. Man, it's going to be at least 3 times as good or effective because you're going to not only play notes that make sense, but you're going to know when not to play those notes, which makes even more sense because at some point in the game, when you choose to not play is at least as important as when you do. So you must know all about how to stroll, as they call it, maybe not play for a minute so that when you come in, it's effective. This is under the heading of maturity, and it shows that you are secure enough in what you do as a musician to not try to uh, overtly take over the bandstand and direct everybody in the way that you want them to go. You are a team player, and again, it comes back to the fact that yes, then everybody wants to accept you in their band because they want team players. They themselves want to be the leader. But the funny part about that is that they're the dog, and you may be wagging the dog, and they don't even know if you do it right. All you have to do is know when to tap whom, how to infuse your ideas into the situation where everyone goes, yeah, I can work with that. Yeah, that's cool. And it's in the body language again. Need to study and understand what's going on with the music, not just from a rhythmic perspective.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense completely. Yes, I mean, regarding this, there is also another thing that you said. I just had a look at a few interviews that uh, are in internet with you. So basically, you mentioned a few times that you have made some mistakes in your professional career, and these mistakes had made you learn and grow more as a professional. So I just wanted to have more of an insight, more details about the mistakes that you believe have made you grow the most, since you started till today, really?
I learned to listen to people and observe. For every step forward, take at least 2 steps backward before the next step, just to make sure the chances are I'm going in the right direction. Again, I think I was very blessed in a way and very fortunate because that came on to me when I was in my 30s. Now I'm in my 70s. The main thing is don't jump into anything without really being sure of what you're doing. Working based on the egotistical aspects of what it meant to work with a Miles Davis or to work with a Peter Gabriel or work with the Grateful Dead or different artists, one could jump in and go, I've arrived. And just blow the doors off of everybody for speed, power, and intensity without really playing musical. More of a showcase. And I never wanted to be that. I always wanted to be a good studio musician, a good supportive element within the band. I've always believed, and I will always believe, for sure, ever, forever, that the drummer is the actual conductor of every band. People will go with you whether they want to or not. There are some people, some musicians who take exception to that and will, at all costs, fight you on it, just to show that they are stronger. Not because they want to play musically, just to show that they can do what they want. But there's a way around that. If you are strong and understanding in what you do, anything can be musical, especially if you do what is correct for the time, because only the actual drummer, the percussionist, the drummer, especially the drum set player, knows how to keep good time, is tasteful in what he provides in musical support, so that the other musicians can kind of virtually do what they want, as long as they are in stride with whatever the drummer plays. And that's a big as long. Because if your ego's in the way and you're just competing at the expense of others, then that's what exactly is going to come out. And the thing is that with all musicians, they can say no, but they know the truth. If you're playing only for yourself, then you're competing against everybody else. If you're playing for the band and you have something rightful to say, then it will work. And guess what? The person who sets you on that track is the drummer. If the drummer is strong and solid and understands the musical content, you'll have no problem working with him or her. But that's asking a lot. And it's strong doesn't mean loud. Strong means definite. We're going here. We're changing here. Here's the transitional pattern I'm going to play. Whatever it is, but it has to come from that sixth sense. This seems like what it could work here, and it just happens. You don't analyze it. You don't play that, out of the book. It happens differently every time. So if you're good, that's going to happen all the time.
Okay. So also every situation, I believe, is different, and you always learn from different cases, different situations, something new.
Well, yeah, but that's what experience is all about. You can only work from that position. If you've never had the experience of playing in a certain way, there's nothing you can offer. There are some people who don't, again, they speak from the position of insecurity. So if you ask them a question about something that they should know, and that they know they saw it, they glanced at it in a book or so. Now they're wishing that they had studied it. But it's not about the book, it's about actually the act of doing. If you do it and you remember the experience, then you're okay. If you read it in a book, then you've only experienced the words, not the action. But at least it's better than nothing at all. But you have to be ready to understand that you have to go through this process to get to where you need to be. It is what it is, you know. And every day, news is a new day when you play the music.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Yeah, that also another thing that I wanted to ask you is, about well, what do you think it has been really the role of music today for what you have seen? We can talk, of course, about different type of music, but what do you believe really that should be the role of music today in the society, and also why?
Music's role hasn't changed, I don't think, and it never will. The role of music today is a sonic reflection of the geopolitical environment in which we live. And so the reason why there was house and there's hip hop and all these different names that came up via the marketing experts in the world who needed names and titles for what they were experiencing through present day artists, only reflects how these people feel. I feel my opinion about someone who's poeticizing lyrics. So they're speaking about what happened, Boys in the Hood, all that kind of stuff. It's real. It happened, and the only way that these guys could get their feelings out was to speak in that way, because that's exactly how they speak in the neighborhood. They don't speak in tune, you know. They speak aggressively. They speak in a way that makes them very upset, because it brings those thoughts that they present within the lyrics, if you want to call them that, or the poetry, are real. That happened, and this person did this to that person, and and she did this to him, and blah blah. This is the way they saw it, okay? And it becomes a million seller. Why? Because everybody relates to it. It's not only in one neighborhood. It's the world. One huge favela with those who have not versus the small minority of those who have. The rich and the extremely poor on many levels. Not money, knowledge. It's like, people who promote that you should go and study and learn how to speak and read and write their language. But they only give you so much of their language, and then they take the rest away and they hide it. Okay? So you only know enough to do what they tell you to do, when they tell you to do it, and if they don't say anything to you, you're on your own. So you come up with whatever else, and that's called slang. And one thing leads to another. The music is represented that way. You don't see a whole lot of people, even though they will spend a small minority of the human race. You don't see them in hip hop. You see them managing it, but it's not something that they like to listen to. They'll listen to Beethoven. They'll listen to Mozart. They'll listen to quote-unquote refined material, refined music, of which they will pay the zeros don't end for what they want to hear in the most refined environments, auditoriums, and blah, blah, blah. Beautifully sounding music. Meanwhile, they'll give the masses what they want. Put them in the stadium, the biggest PA system in the world. Blow their ears out. Who cares? There's more where that comes from. That's what it's all about. It's just nature of being. It's not good or bad. It's just the way life is. And that's what comes out of the masses versus what comes out for the minorities. And the more you know this, I think, the more one steps back as an artist and goes, huh, so these guys like this and these guys like that. Okay, where do I fit in the middle? What can I do that I feel comfortable with? Because in the end, whatever you do and whatever you support, what you feel comfortable with represents who you are, number one, and will be best presented by you. Nobody else can do it for you. And where you want to be, as far as I'm concerned, is doing the things you love, the things that are really representing who you are, not who you want them to be, want to be for them, whichever. The hip hop people, the poor, rich. At the end of the day, it's about, are you happy with what you're doing for yourself? That's what I seek to try to do myself in anything I do music-wise, because I can't do anything, I can't effectively be present anything that I'm not that comfortable with or don't know enough about.
Mm-hmm. Since we are talking also about what you love to do, that's another thing I would like to know. I mean, what, for example, how did let's say, well, what did you really love in the past, and what do you love now about learning music? So also, what has directed you to wanting really to learn more and more about music?
The reason I want to learn and continue to learn as well more and more deeply about what the notes mean that are written, or the notes mean that I feel comfortable playing, whether it's written by me or somebody else, is so that I can make a deeper, more positive contribution to that whole scene. You see, and if you can't, then it's just surface stuff. You're playing what I like to call licks. I heard a Philly Joe lick, or I heard a Harvey Mason lick. No, I want to play and make an impression the way whomever wrote the lick made an impression on me, and I want all my music to hang around as long as possible. And the strangest thing about it all is that the simpler it is, and the more timing it comes with. It's exactly when you play something that's simple. Sometimes it's just the right group of notes for the right time, and everyone goes, right, I get it, I understand. And it's not in the words, it's in the body language. I want to make an impression that people can go, uh-huh, and nod their heads and go, yeah, I get it. I get it. They will remember that, and that's what we want to do.
Mm-hmm. I see. That's good. That's very interesting. Have you ever been in a situation in your life where you felt like you needed to keep yourself disciplined, and then you felt that you have renounced to certain things? Like if you...
No.
Mm-hmm.
No, I can't say that I ever have. No, I do what I do. That's what I don't. Maybe it's because, but the reason of that is that there's a line that comes out of a few movies, and it says, "I only play the hand that's dealt me." It's a card game, and I've been dealt a hand that always seemed as if not pretty much all the time seemed as if there was nothing there to win the game or come close to winning the game. So I had to not win the game. I had to turn the cards into something that would give me at least some value to tide me over until I could play the next game to give myself a chance to win that one. So with that in mind, I would take the small game from whatever I was playing or however I was playing and say, okay, fine, I feel comfortable with that. Let's see if we can add that to my history as an artist and move on to the next thing and try to make a better impression next time. Knowing that I got a little piece, made enough money to get some food, pay the rent, whatever basic things were, and keep smiling and move on to the next thing. No Grammys, no, that was never me. And that's great because to me that means I'm under the radar. That's fine. Under the radar is much better than being above it because now you're a target. All I want to do is my little thing and outlive everybody else so that I can just enjoy what I do. It's not about drawing more attention to myself than I absolutely have to. Yes, I have an audience. It's a small one. I'm happy with it. As long as I feel I'm happy with myself for what little I do, I think I have a very, very successful time. And I'm good with that.
So I wonder now, I mean, my next question would be, I mean, have you ever felt in some periods of your life regarding your drumming some frustration? And yeah, also, how did you keep yourself motivated?
No, never been there.
Mm-hmm.
What I play. It's who I am. And I think I've been very, very fortunate in that I've been able to think things through up to a great degree, so that to this point in my life, have never had any problems with my hands. There's never been a carpal tunnel syndrome thing. I've not openly competed with people because I never had to. While everybody's trying to play faster, louder, stronger, longer, I've just been trying to play musically. And it's another world. That means that you have to give up a little. You have to give up a lot to gain a little. And I'm good with that. You know, giving up a lot could be a lot of different things. You know, could be notoriety. But if I'm playing in a good organ trio that's just grooving, hey, we're working. You know, if I'm playing as a substitute for, as a third substitute in a Broadway play, I got a gig. I may not be the main squeeze, but at least I'm working a little bit every so often. If I add that to something else that's going on where I'm subbing for somebody else, eventually all of it turns out into enough money to survive, pay the bills, enough to get myself through whatever tough time it might be, you know, with the hope that people will hear me, eventually they'll see me, and, you know, things change. It's a cycle. Maybe I'll have some good days down the road. Always with a positive attitude. In that way, I don't lose, and I'm never frustrated. You know, but I'm still playing. I'm playing, and I'm experimenting with people who generally I may never have played with before, except that we have one thing in common. They're expecting me to give them a sense of security so that they can play and they can be whomever they want to be because they know I'm holding everything else down. That in itself means that I'll probably get a call down the road from this AP because a lot of drummers don't do that.
I see, yeah, that seems pretty clear. I was just wondering because you were talking also about a sense of security. That's, for example, something that it's quite easy to see in all the greatest musicians. So I was wondering, since you know you've been in contact with well, most of them anyway, and you are also one of them, just really to see what kind of characteristics you have seen in you know, great musicians you have seen, and what do you think also that does make a musician great?
What makes a musician great is his or her ability to understand the musical environment in which they are working, with whom they are working, and to command a sense of respect from their colleagues immediately. based on what they do in real time, and as well as if they have a history or of a resume that people know about, what people are expecting them to do, and they prove it that they are going to do, from their history. You do that, as again, you work all the time, and you have the respect of the people who work with you, because they know they can count on you to do certain things right.
I see. That's well, that's pretty much really everything I wanted to cover today. And I mean, I don't know if there is anything else that you would like to add, and you think would be worth saying. Okay.
No, the only thing that I can think of is that, in essence, in Rimini, Fellini would have loved to have had a better gelato ice cream made from stracciatella.
Sorry,
Aside from that, no.
where was that?
In Rimini,
Rimini.
Fellini loved stracciatella gelato. And so we really got along very well when it came to that.
I see. Was that also with Tullio, or I mean, I assume you might have been around with Tullio d'Episcopo also.
Tullio d'Episcopo, yeah. Yeah, he's an interesting person, that's for sure. Yeah, what can one say?
Mm-hmm.
He's a real personality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and you just leave it at that, and it's just as well.
That's good. My curiosity is everyone asks you about drumming and music, but I was also wondering, what do you do when you're not drumming or when you're not doing music?
Well, hold on one second.
Yes.
Oh boy, let's see. And you're in London, right?
Yes.
So if you're in London and you have a chance to come down to the Mayfair, to a gallery, I do this.
Oh, nice. Oh, okay, photography. That's fun.
And I'll have my showing in Mayfair, June, I think it's June 12th through June 17th at the Leica Galleries in Mayfair.
Amazing.
And in the evening, I'll be playing at Ronnie Scott's with the Guy Barker Big Band that same week for about 6 nights.
Nice.
So it's fundamentally a combination of viewing my art and listening to it, because all of the material is my music.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant. So I will definitely try to be there then.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. That'll be good.
So come on down and check it out. Yeah, hopefully I'll have about 20 or 30 pieces up on the wall by then.
Brilliant. All right. So William, Billy, sorry. Really, thank you. I mean, for your availability for this, your time. I really appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you very much. Take care.
Billy, thank you. Take care. Wish you a nice time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.